Chapter 2. Since the objects of imitation are men in action, and these men must be either of a higher or a lower type, for moral character mainly answers to these divisions, goodness and badness being the distinguishing marks of moral differences. It follows that we must represent men either as better than in real life, or as worse, or as they are. It is the same in painting. Polygnotus depicted men as nobler than they are, Pauson as less noble, Dionysius drew them true to life. Now it is evident that each of the modes of imitation above mentioned will exhibit these differences and become a distinct kind in imitating objects that are thus distinct. Such diversities may be found even in dancing, flute playing, and lyre playing. So again in language, whether prose or verse unaccompanied by music. Homer, for example, makes men better than they are, Cleophon as they are, Hegemon the Thasian, the inventor of parodies, and Nicacares, the author of the Iliad, worse than they are. The same thing holds good of dithyrambs and gnomes. Here too one may portray different types, as Timotheus and Philoxenus differed in representing their cyclopes. The same distinction marks off tragedy from comedy, for comedy aims at representing men as worse, tragedy as better than in actual life.
Summary and reflection of Chapter 2.
In Section 2 of the Poetics, Aristotle delves into the nature of imitation, particularly focusing on the portrayal of human characters in action. He asserts that the objects of imitation are men in action, and these men can be categorized as either of a higher or lower moral type. Aristotle contends that moral character, characterized by goodness or badness, is the key determinant in these divisions. Consequently, the representation of men in art can be better than in real life, worse, or true to life, akin to the approaches taken by different painters like Polygnotus, Pauson, and Dionysius. Aristotle extends this analysis to various art forms, such as dancing, flute playing, lyre playing, and language, both prose and verse. Each mode of imitation, he argues, will exhibit differences based on whether it depicts characters as better, worse, or true to life. The same diversity is observed in literary works, where poets like Homer make characters better than they are, Cleophon depict them as they are, and others, like Hegemon and Nicacares, present characters as worse than they are. This distinction is also evident in dithyrambs and gnomes, where different types of characters are portrayed. In drawing parallels between tragedy and comedy, Aristotle highlights a fundamental divergence. Comedy aims to represent characters as worse than in actual life, while tragedy seeks to portray them as better. This section thus establishes a framework for understanding the moral dimensions of imitation in various art forms, offering insights into the artist's choices in representing human characters.
Practical exercises.
Writers. Write a short story where the characters are portrayed as better than they are, exploring the nuances of creating morally elevated protagonists. Experiment with a narrative where characters are depicted as worse than they are, delving into the challenges of crafting morally flawed but engaging personalities. Composers. Compose a musical piece that mirrors the moral elevation of characters, using musical elements to convey a sense of nobility and goodness. Create a composition that embraces dissonance and darker tones, representing characters with moral shortcomings, inspired by Aristotle's insights. Dancers. Choreograph a dance that reflects the moral virtues of characters, emphasizing movements that convey nobility and grace. Explore dance movements that embody moral flaws, capturing the essence of characters depicted as worse than they are. Actors. Engage in improvisational exercises where characters are portrayed as better than in real life, exploring the challenge of embodying elevated moral qualities. Perform scenes where characters are depicted as worse than they are, navigating the complexities of portraying morally flawed individuals while maintaining audience engagement. These exercises encourage artists to apply Aristotle's principles of moral imitation in their creative processes, challenging them to explore the dynamic spectrum of human character within the context of their respective art forms.